So the first thing I'm going to do is to select all this piece, organize it, and mirror it. So if you go, you'll see that the outliner has all these like objects that we've been making, and we want to start organizing them. And there's like a bunch of curves and these nodes here that have this slanted polygon, like this white shape and an arrow. Those are groups. Some of them are empty, like this one doesn't belong anywhere. So you see there's like an empty group. In this case, you want to delete the history, and so you can clean up any sort of history that is associated with this group, and then delete it. So it's not like an empty node. So there's another empty node. I have like the delete history up here, so it's easier for me. Another one. So now this might be associated with an image plane. It says image plane 3. Let me see if I go to my image planes. How do you go to the image planes? You go to view, like this one here is an image plane that I brought in the perspective. So I can bring many image planes in the perspective. So let's see how many do I have. To know how many image planes you have, you go from the viewport on the perspective down to the image plane, and you can see that you have one. I have two image planes, but one is hidden. I'm going to go to the one that is hidden right now, and I'm going to turn it on. So I have this detail that I wanted to show you guys how to bring in. So sometimes, of course, this is like a general proportion. This image plane gives me the proportions and the shape of the building, but I cannot really see far. I cannot see, it's very small to see the details. So what I do usually is I go to my images. So I have this where is it? So in the source images, I have in my project folder, I have like I can open this image, and I can select, let's say, this area. I can go close to that, and it's kind of blurry, but at least I can see the shape of this chimney. And I will just grab a screenshot, and I can go back here. So I'm in the perspective right now. I could turn this off, so I can go to this image plane, and image plane 1. I can name this, for instance, building, and I can say don't show this now. I'm done with that. So I can press none. So I can bring another one. So image plane. So I can go to my screenshot, and then I have this image. I'm just gonna resize it from the attribute editor. So the resizing is easy. You just go to the size here. Let's see. And you can dial that and offset. I'm holding the command on the Mac. I think it's the control on the PC. I don't remember now, but if you hold command in the Mac and click inside the text field, it's like a dial. So I can bring this image up here, and I can start modeling. So this is a good reference. I can hide everything else. So let me, I'm going to select everything and hide, Control H, and I can start working on this. I'm going to go to the grid. So here's the grid, and I can start working on it. In some cases, when you see something like a circular, like a pipe but is all kind of deformed, like this one, you could use the loft command. So you can say that these are all circles that are deformed. Some of them are elliptical. So I can make a bunch of circles using the create circle, and I can go. So I can select this circle, which is the base, and duplicate it and move it up. And I'll make like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe like 4 or 5. So I can select this, and it could be, I'm not gonna deform them right now. I'm just gonna define the height. So about there. I can move this back. I can start shaping it too. I mean, I can see like how these are going, so I can kind of like move them, and I'll scale them in a minute. So I'm just gonna create an array of circles. And I'm doing it very free form right now. I don't care much about where these are. I'm gonna just shape it. And that's the final one. That's like more like a longer. So now I have something that follows that shape, and then I could start pushing these. And I'm gonna make just some adjustments on the scale. So this is getting a much thinner down here, and then it gets again. So something like that. I'm not sure. I cannot really see the shape yet. So the best thing to do is to actually create the shape and then use the circles to like get what you want. So this is a good technique because we can create a loft. You can do a lot of things with this, like arms and anything that has a shape that has fingers. So I'm going to select when you want to loft things, you want to select the first to the last, so in order. So the first, hold on the key, press Q to select. So first, second, third, 6, 7, 8. So that's how you would want to do it, because that's how it's going to create the surface. In 2016, under the modeling area, we can find the loft command under the surfaces. In 2015, it's going to be under the surfaces area here, and you have to go to the surfaces and hit loft. So if I reset the settings, for my loft settings, I use, of course, we're going to do an organic shape, so cubic, polygon, quads, general, and then I apply, and then you get, of course, the very generic shape that you need to tessellate. So you have to go to the channel box and start tessellating. So increase the V number. So you get like something like this. So if this is not too many, if it's not too much, you can increase the V number again. I'm gonna put like 10 maybe. Now I can select. Now it's hard to select the curves in here. So what I do is I select the geometry that is generated, and I drop it in a layer, and I drop it in a temporary layer that I lock it, so it doesn't, so I can only select the curves now. So I can select a curve and I can move it, and the first thing you want to do is like just look at the shape, and just like this one should be a little bit more rotated, and maybe that needs to be scaled up. So I'm not gonna stay here too long, but you can see the flexibility of how you can also create. You can see through, so it's like easier. So here I'm gonna exaggerate. I'm gonna just make this. These can curve too, so there's an angle. So let's say I'm just here now. There's another technique, like these are perfect ellipses. They're perfect circular shapes. We start with a circle, and then we end up as to an ellipse. This is not an ellipse exactly. It's more like a deformed ellipse. So you could potentially even tweak the control vertices of these, meaning that you can go to control vertex and select these and start, shaping them. So you can see how flexible the shape can be. You can actually select these and move them up, scale them. And the next thing I'm going to do is just give this some detail. So I'm gonna leave it here. You guys can do, you can work on the shape. So I'm gonna turn off the X-ray, unlock the shape, and of course we need some thickness here. So what I'm gonna do is just select the edge loop, I'm gonna hide those curves. I don't seem to select the edge. Okay, so here's the edge. So I'm going to scale it, like extrude it, and give it some thickness. Do another extrude. So the last thing I want to do is notice that this is just an assembled pieces of aluminum. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's get all these curves out of the way. So I'm gonna throw them in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some edge loops and then create those kind of seams. So one would be over here. So I'm gonna do one over here, another one over there. So wherever I have the separations, and then I can go ahead and select all these face loops. And extrude. So you just want to pull them in, push them in a little bit. So hold on the shift key and double click, extrude. So select one face and select the last one and double click. So the purpose of that is that we create it and we make it like a hard surface shape, not a smooth shape. So I need to do one more thing over here. I just want to need another edge loop, a couple of edge loops. Just to make some subdivisions. Since this is going to be a hard surface shape, I'm going to bevel it. So I'm going to select this edge loop, these two edge loops, and bevel it. One thing that you could do, notice that this area here has been, all of them are smoothed out except this one. So what you could do, just to create a more smoother edge, you can select these edges here, and you can go to the normals, and you can soften edge. So those can be, so it doesn't look like a hard surface over there. So now I can select it and I can situate it up on the roof. So I'm going to bring everything back, select it, and I'm going to move the pivot point in the center. So I'm just going to center the pivot first, and hold down the D and snap, hold down the V key as I'm holding down the V and the V, and then snap it down here with the middle mouse button. So I'm going to select and move it up. There's the prop. The loft you can use for a lot of things, like for a lot of type of modeling.